should be heard. And our topic today is how the travel industry will change after the pandemic, and we're calling it the future of travel. And by every measure, the coronavirus pandemic has decimated the travel industry. The images of the world shut down are eerie, and the numbers are staggering. About 100 million travelers, about 100 million travel sector jobs have been lost, and according to one global estimate, um, passenger traffic on U.S. airlines is down 95% compared to last year, while international passenger revenues are expected to decrease by more than $300 billion. And domestic hotel occupancy rates fell off a cliff, and now it hangs around 25%. Regions and countries are beginning to open up, but the outbreak would undoubtedly change how we think, act, and travel, at least in the short term. Regions and countries are beginning to open up. The pandemic is going to fade slowly with after effects, and a lot will be psychological. So what this article is about is what do we need to do? What do we need to do to make you feel safe about traveling? And a recent survey indicated that 1/3 of Americans said that they will travel within 3 months after the restrictions are lifted. Wow. 1/3 of the Americans will travel within 3 months after the restrictions are lifted. That's totally amazing. So what will the future of travel look like? In today's show, we will discuss 3 actions needed to travel in the future: social distancing, testing, and face masks, and how these three actions will affect air travel, cruising, and hotels. Plus, we'll take a break from all this negative news about the pandemic and talk about 3 places you may want to travel to in the future or near future: Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and Madagascar. Now, Madagascar is not a cartoon. It's not a movie. This is an actual place, and it's totally amazing. And we're going to take you there. Okay, but what is travel like? What is air travel going to look like on airplanes? So right now they're trying to practice social distancing on airplanes. Solving social distancing in airplane is currently being attempted by leaving the middle seat open. But for the airlines to make any money off of it, we don't know if this is possible. But nonetheless, expect airlines to dangle cheap fares to get people back in the air. So again, we're talking about air travel. The other thing needed to travel would be face masks. Public carriers mandate that passengers wear face masks and increase the frequency and effectiveness of their cleaning protocols, including filling the aircraft with a germ-killing fog before cleaning crews wipe down surfaces. As long as it has a long effect. Delta Airlines is currently cleaning their airplanes at night after all flights, and this has been done internationally for a long time. And the third thing that will go a long way to reassure the public that it's okay to fly is testing. But so far, only one airlines Dubai Emirates has offered a virus test to a limited number of passengers. Groups including pilot unions have called for temperature checks. The TSA hasn't moved on the idea, and Air Canada plans to begin taking temperature readings at check-ins this month. Payne Field, just north of Seattle, recently installed a thermal camera that reads passengers' temperature before they enter security. Passengers beware, low fares won't last. Assuming the virus puzzle is solved, many expect a reverse recovery in 2022. But this is only 2020. So we're not talking about airlines recovering until 2022. And because of the bailout they got from the government, airlines have to continue to fly to all the airports and this is called the Care Pack. They have to continue to fly to all the airports they flew before, and they can't lay anybody off for 3 months. So look for things to change around October when this care package ends and the airlines start to try and make money on their own. So we're looking at laying off people. We're looking at changing routes, and there's several airlines already that has already tried to change the routes. So about October, November, the air industry is going to change. But the three things that we talked about for air travel is social distancing on airplanes, leaving the third seat open, face masks, which we covered in the first half of the show, that you have to wear to board the plane, but they're not enforcing the policy once you get on the plane, and testing. Right now, there's only 1 or 2 airlines talking about testing, and there's only one place in America, this is up around Seattle, that is going to use a thermal camera to determine your temperature before you get on the plane. So that's what it's like for air travel. What is cruising going to look like? And actually in cruising, there's two parts to cruising. There's cruising, there's getting on the ship, there's getting off the ship, and then there's a hotel portion of cruising. So for this part, we're just going to talk about getting on the ship, getting off the ship, and the housekeeping. So cruising will people get back on boats? Will people get back on cruise ships? Ships turned away from port after port, passengers quarantining their cabins, emergency workers in hazmat suits. Few travel sectors have taken a harder hit than cruises, now largely halted per no-sail orders issued by the CDC. Carnival, the biggest cruise line, says that they will cruise again starting August 1st. And I will put a big question mark after that. Analysts believe large companies like Carnival and Royal Caribbean, they have the financial ability to withstand everything that they're going through. And just so you know, it's stated that people booking cruises for 2021 is up. But discounted fares and flexible cancellation policies would only go so far to reassure the future passengers. So the real challenge will be reducing perceived risks of actually getting on a cruise ship, and this will require changes in operational policies. With cruise ships, we're talking about health screening. Temperature checks at embarkment, temperature checks at getting on the ship, and temperatures checked at disembarkment, getting off the ship. Twice daily temperature checks for crew members, and banning self-service buffets. So the self-serve buffets on cruise ships will be gone. You would have to do a temperature check before you got on the ship, and a temperature check each time you get off the ship. And crew members will get temperature checks twice a day. Face masks for housekeepers and food servers Also, and also a doctor's note for passengers 70 and over, indicating that they are fit to travel, is just one of the things that's also going to be needed to travel in the future. And then the cruise lines have to come up with a contingency plan for when an infection does occur. In its order, the CDC directed the industry to make more responsibility for managing outbreaks on board, including plans for laboratory testing of samples, disinfection protocols, and providing personal protection equipment. Royal Caribbean has gone so far as to try to make their face covering official. So there's different things going on there, and then ships may be deployed differently, which means that if an outbreak happens and they go to an island, that you can get off one ship, get on another ship, and go home. Okay, these are some of the plans that's in place for cruising after the pandemic is over. And hotels. And with hotels, I would also include cruises, because a part of cruising is the hotels. So it's cleaning the new amenity that you'll get when you stay in a hotel. When travel restrictions are lifted and hotels reopen, travelers can expect to see housekeeping front and center in hotels, including cruise ships. Experts foresee more touchless check-in, VIA apps, and expressions of hygiene that go beyond the paper wrap over the toilet seat. So what we're talking about here is transparency and tangible clues will give consumers more comfort, adding that housekeeping logs may become public. Robotic cleaning is still novel, but there's a lot of talk about going to robotic cleaning, where hotel lobbies used to be warm and friendly. Expect a cold but gleaming scene with custodians frequently circulating with disinfectant. Pens and other knickknacks likely to be touched by other guests will be replaced with sanitizing wipes. Major hotel companies are experimenting with electrostatic spraying to disinfect interiors and ultraviolet lights to sanitize room keys. Hospitality will be faceless and encourage social distancing. Marriott plans to offer a contact-free room service through its cell phone app. Hilton rooms will have a seal on the door indicating they haven't been entered since they were last cleaned. Wow. These are all the changes that's going to be made after the coronavirus is over. So let's get away from all this and let's talk about going to someplace different, someplace you've never been. And that place is Madagascar. Madagascar is about, it is situated 250 miles off the coast of South Africa. Madagascar is the fourth largest island on Earth and is in a world of its own. Sometimes referred to as the eighth continent, Madagascar split from the Indian continent about 88 million years ago and the African mainland about 47 million years before that. So it is perhaps not surprising that about 90% of this flora is found nowhere else on Earth. Much of the island's megaflora, including nearly 10-foot tall elephant, birds, and lemurs the size of gorillas, has been driven to extinction, and some 90% of the original forest habitat here has been lost since humans first arrived some 2,000 years ago. First from Africa, Arabia, India, and Europe. But Madagascar still boasts a unique plant and animal life, and from numerous species of trees and orchids to just the flora. And this is it's truly an amazing place to visit. But for the complete story on Madagascar, visit my Facebook page, It's Your Time to Travel, and to follow the photographs and text by a writer named Marcus Westberg. And it truly gives you the complete story of what this place is actually like. It's awesome. And to imagine that it's 250 miles off the coast of Africa, is truly amazing. So the next place we want to go to is Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, after requiring some of the stringent confinement measures in the United States, including a nightly curfew. Puerto Rico had a nightly curfew. Puerto Rico is beginning to look forward. In addition to gradual easing of lockdowns and reopening of business, the Puerto Rican Tourist Company announces a new two-step program that will allow businesses to be recognized as exercising high standards of cleanliness and safety. As of May 6th, Puerto Rico confirmed case count is 1,757 people with only 95 deaths. Their opening date, the first round of openings started May 4th, and if all goes well, the rest will open between May 18th and May 25th. The curfew is still in place until at least May 25th. And the current restrictions in Puerto Rico is the initial lockdown restrictions, which went into effect March 16, included a closure of most businesses, the curfew and threats of fines and imprisonment for anyone who violated its terms. As of May 1st, restrictions are loosening somewhat, and some smaller businesses are allowed to reopen, as long as they enforce social distancing and provide protective gear to employees. Parks and beaches remain closed, though exercise is allowed, and a curfew is still in effect between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. All visitors to the island are being screened for symptoms and are requested to self-quarantine for 14 days. But that will soon be lifted, probably after May 25th. And this is a drone video of Puerto Rico and how it looks. And this drone video was taken in 2019. Puerto Rico is actually a place I traveled to often when I was executive for JCPenney's, because for some reason Puerto Rico was the biggest area where we sold cosmetics. So as the executive for JCPenney's, I flew there very often, so I'm very familiar with a lot of parts of Puerto Rico, and recently did a cruise there to Puerto Rico. But it's just an amazing area, and it's one of the things that strike me every time I go to Puerto Rico and I look at the price of gas, and they have to remind me that it's not by gallons, it's by liters, so they have to remind me of that. And even though Puerto Rico was devastated by hurricanes, it is really starting to come back, really starting to come back. So one of the other areas that we want to talk about is Hawaii. And just so you know, during the pandemic, Hawaii was arresting people for being on the beach. And they were actually any people that was arrested on the beach that were not from Hawaii was being sent home. So travelers were being sent home in Hawaii during the pandemic. But the state of Hawaii is struggling to keep visitors away, but also is looking forward to welcoming them back. While cases remain relatively low, 625 total with 17 deaths as of May 5th, the state government has proceeded cautiously. The economic losses from tourism are worrisome, and in a place that relies so heavily on the industry. A 2020 strategic plan published by Hawaiian Tourism Authority at the beginning of the year credited tourism with $17.75 billion spent in the state in 2019 and 216,000 local jobs. So what are the current restrictions for Hawaii? Residents and visitors to Hawaii are asked to stay home or in their place of residence as much as possible, venturing out only for essential business or activities. Outdoor exercise, including running, walking, and surfing, is allowed as long as social distancing is practiced. While there is not currently an active ban on traveling to Hawaii, it is strongly discouraged. In one of my previous radio shows, Hawaii talked about not advertising any trips to Hawaii until they let us know. So recently, I began receiving authorization to start advertising Hawaii again. Visitors and residents who arrive by airplane are required to self-quarantine for 14 days, and some of those who haven't followed the rules have received a free ticket home. The same applies to travel between the Hawaiian Islands. So how will they open safely? The governor differs by each island. For example, retail establishments will not open on Oahu until May 15th. But retail in Maui still does not have a target opening date. All openings may be rolled back or paused if cases begin to sharply increase. And the major obstacle to them opening is balancing safety and resources. While a government-led task force has been announced, the sharp decline in travel in the current 14-day quarantine requirements renders any kind of immediate relief challenging. And right now we have the video is of Hawaii and all the wonderful things of Hawaii. And again, this is the big island, Hawaii, and you see the volcanoes and all the amazing things that Hawaii has to offer. But as we continue to get closer to opening, are those the sharks that were in? Yeah. So we're back to Hawaii again, and all the amazing things that's going on in Hawaii. And when all this is over with, Hawaii will be a great destination to travel to. So the three places that we talked about today was Hawaii that we're showing here, which will open up soon to travel. We talked about Puerto Rico, one of my favorite places to travel to. And we also talked about Madagascar, 250 miles off the coast of Africa. It is considered the fourth biggest island in the world. And if you go to my Facebook page, It's Your Time to Travel, there's a complete story about Madagascar. And I will add the YouTube video to it so you can kind of read about what it's about. Just places that we're looking to travel to as all this is over with. First half of the show, we talked about what travel is going to look like after the pandemic is over. One of the things that we talked about is that to have travel insurance, to have cancel for any reason travel insurance. Now that's what you need to travel in the near future after all this is over. And travel for any reason, travel insurance will give you the opportunity to cancel for any reason. You know, as long as you cancel 48 days before you travel, you get 75%, just 75% of your money back. So that's one of the things we covered in the first half of the show was travel for any reason. This just in, we talked about one way to keep the beaches clean is to announce that it's been a shark attack. Since there was a shark attack in Santa Cruz, the beaches are cleared. And before that, California could not keep the beaches cleared. And the other thing that we talked about in the first part of the show was airlines are not going to enforce you wearing face masks on airplanes once the flight's up in the air. So look up in the sky. It's the superhero of travel with Ricky Tyus, and we're able to take you around the world by air, land, or sea, even by flying saucer. And we're live on talktainmentradio.com, radio the way it should be heard.